Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin Street Journal Market Update. I'm Lara, filling in for Anna, who is currently MIA, lols.
And I'm Finley. Glad to be back in the saddle.
Absolutely. For those of you who are new to the show, Finley and I break down the latest happenings in the world of Bitcoin. But we try to keep it fun, right?
Attempt to, at least. No promises.
Well, I think we usually succeed. Anyway, today we've got a jam-packed show. We're diving headfirst into some Bitcoin breaking news, major developments that could impact your portfolio.
Yep, we'll be dissecting all the angles and giving you our take on what it all means.
And then we're going to switch gears completely and explore something totally different but equally fascinating, Nostr.
Nostr, the protocol that is really making waves. It could be the future of decentralized social media and, well, frankly, it's pretty damn cool.
I'm excited to pick your brain about that one. So buckle up, grab your favorite beverage, and let's get started. All right, Finley, let's jump right into the Bitcoin market overview. What are you seeing out there? It feels like it's been a roller coaster lately.
Roller coaster is definitely one word for it. We've seen some pretty significant price swings in the past week. After that initial surge, it has been a bit choppy. We saw Bitcoin hit, 70,000, and it's kind of pulled back since.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was wondering if it would hold at that level. What do you attribute the pullback to?
Well, a few things, I think. Profit-taking is definitely a factor. People who bought in earlier are cashing out some of their gains, which is to be expected. There's also been some FUD floating around. The usual concerns about regulation and macroeconomic factors.
Right, the old faithfuls. And what about trading volume? Has that been affected?
Trading volume has been pretty high, actually. Even with the price dips, there's still a lot of activity, which suggests there's still strong interest in Bitcoin. People are buying the dip, or at least trying to.
So despite the volatility, the underlying sentiment is still relatively positive?
I think so. Looking at the on-chain data, we're seeing continued accumulation by long-term holders. That suggests that people aren't panicking, and they still believe in the long-term potential of Bitcoin. Plus, these dips shake out the paper hands.
Good point. So for our listeners, what's the key takeaway here? Is this a buying opportunity, or should they be cautious?
Well, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't give specific advice. But I would say it's always important to do your own research and understand the risks involved. But generally speaking, if you're a long-term believer in Bitcoin, these pullbacks can be good opportunities to add to your position.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. So keep a close eye on price movements, trading volume, and overall sentiment, and make informed decisions based on your own risk tolerance. Got it. Okay, Finley, so what's the first big piece of Bitcoin news we need to unpack for everyone? I've been seeing some chatter about the latest regulatory updates. What's the deal?
Yes, the regulatory landscape, ever-changing. Well, the big one that's caught my eye is the EU's recent move. They are considering stricter rules on self-custody wallets.
Oh boy, here we go again. So what exactly are they proposing? And what does that even mean for the average Bitcoin user, like me, who's just trying to, hodl?
Right, so essentially they're looking at implementing measures that would require crypto exchanges to verify the owners of unhosted wallets. That's basically wallets that aren't held by a third party. So if you want to send Bitcoin from your own wallet to an exchange, they might need to collect more information about you.
Okay, I think I get it. So it's making it harder to move Bitcoin anonymously between your own wallet and, say, an exchange? But does this mean they're going to be able to see everything in my wallet? Because that is like a huge privacy concern.
Not exactly see everything, but it definitely chips away at the pseudonymity that Bitcoin offers. The idea is to combat money laundering and illicit activities, but of course there are concerns about overreach and the impact on legitimate users.
Right, because criminals are always going to criminal, and this will just make it harder for regular people to use Bitcoin. It's always the way. But, practically speaking, how would this even work? It sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It is complex, no doubt. Exchanges would have to implement systems to verify wallet ownership, which could involve things like requiring users to sign messages with their wallets or provide other forms of proof. And honestly, the technology to do this seamlessly isn't quite there yet.
Okay, so it's clunky and invasive. Got it. What impact are we expecting on the market? Do you think people are going to start selling off their Bitcoin because of this?
It's possible we could see some short-term price dips as people react to the news. There will definitely be some uncertainty and, frankly, annoyance. However, I think the long-term impact will depend on how strictly these rules are enforced and how easily people can adapt.
Adapt how? Like finding ways around it?
Well, yeah, there are always ways to enhance your privacy when using Bitcoin, even with regulations. Things like using CoinJoin or Lightning Network, using decentralized exchanges that don't require KYC, know your customer. People will find solutions. They always do.
Right. The Bitcoin community is pretty resourceful. So what should our listeners be doing right now besides, not panicking?
Stay informed, first of all. Keep an eye on how these regulations are developing and how they might affect you. Consider exploring privacy-enhancing tools if you're concerned about your transactions being tracked. And, most importantly, continue to advocate for sensible regulation that doesn't stifle innovation.
Solid advice, Finley. So keep calm, stack sats, and fight for your right to transact privately? Got it. Okay, what's the next breaking news?
Okay, so the second piece of breaking news, and this one is, well, it's a bit more positive, thankfully.
Oh, good. I need some good news. Lay it on me, Finley.
All right. So remember that BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF we talked about a while back?
Yeah, the one that everyone was watching like a hawk? What's up with it?
Well, it's officially been approved by the SEC.
Finally. Oh my gosh, it felt like we were waiting forever. Does this mean what I think it means? Like easy Bitcoin access for, everyone?
Pretty much, yeah. This is huge for mainstream adoption. It opens the door for institutional investors and everyday folks to get exposure to Bitcoin without having to directly hold the asset. Think about it. It's going to be available on their brokerage accounts, right next to their stocks and bonds.
Wow. Okay, so grandma can now buy Bitcoin without even knowing she's buying Bitcoin.
Exactly. Okay, maybe not grandma quite yet, but you get the idea. It dramatically simplifies the process. This is something of a watershed moment.
Okay, I see the potential. More demand equals higher prices, right? That's what everyone's hoping for. But are there any downsides? Does this mean BlackRock now controls Bitcoin or something?
No, absolutely not. BlackRock's ETF is simply a fund that holds Bitcoin. It doesn't give them any control over the Bitcoin network itself. The network is still decentralized. Think of it like a gold ETF. It doesn't give the fund manager control over all the gold in the...
Okay, that makes sense. So it's just a convenient wrapper around Bitcoin?
Precisely. And that convenience is what's driving the excitement. It will bring so much liquidity to the space.
So what should we do now? And I mean our listeners, as well as you and me. Should we be buying more Bitcoin in anticipation of this ETF driving up the price?
Well, I can't give financial advice, of course, but it certainly strengthens the case for Bitcoin as a long-term investment. Do your research, consider your risk tolerance, and maybe it's a good time to reevaluate your portfolio allocation. Personally, I'm feeling pretty bullish about this.
Okay, so shifting gears completely, let's talk about Nostr.
Nostr? Never heard of it. Is that like a new crypto thing?
Sort of. It's more of a protocol than a cryptocurrency. Think of it as a completely decentralized social network.
Okay, hold up. Decentralized social network? So no central company like, Twitter or Facebook running the show?
Exactly. There's no single point of control. No one can censor you, deplatform you, or shut down the entire network.
Okay, that sounds interesting. But how does that even work? If there's no central server, where does all the data live?
That's where it gets cool. Nostr uses a network of relays. Think of relays as public bulletin boards. You post your messages to these relays, and anyone can subscribe to those relays to see your messages.
So it's like email? I send an email and it goes through a bunch of servers before it reaches the recipient.
It's very similar, yeah. Except with Nostr, anyone can run a relay, and you can choose which relays you want to use. You're not locked into one specific platform.
Okay, so I could post something on like Relay A, and someone could see it on Relay B, even if those relays aren't connected to each other directly?
Correct. Your client, your Nostr app, handles the connections and makes sure your messages get distributed. And the really neat thing is that everything is end-to-end encrypted using public key cryptography.
Okay, cryptography. You're losing me a little bit. So it's secure?
Super secure. Only you and the intended recipient can decrypt your messages. No one else, not even the relay operators.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. So it's like freedom of speech, but for the internet?
Precisely, and it has huge implications for Bitcoin. Because it's censorship resistant, it can be used to build all sorts of things on top of Bitcoin, things that are impossible on traditional social media.
Okay, so beyond just like tweeting about Bitcoin, what are some of these implications? What can you really do with Nostr and Bitcoin together?
Well, think about it. Censorship-resistant marketplaces. You could have a completely decentralized eBay, where no one can deplatform sellers or censor listings, all powered by Bitcoin payments through the Lightning Network.
Whoa, okay, that's actually pretty huge. No more getting banned like having your PayPal or YouTube account locked due to possibly a bad review or transaction.
Exactly. Or think about decentralized crowdfunding. People can donate Bitcoin to projects they believe in, without fear of the platform shutting them down or seizing the funds.
So it's bypassing the gatekeepers, basically.
Completely. And it's not just about commerce. It's about communication, too. Think about journalists operating in oppressive regimes. They can use Nostr to communicate securely and anonymously, and even accept Bitcoin donations to fund their work.
Okay, that's legitimately powerful. But are there any downsides? I mean, everything has a catch, right?
Of course. The biggest challenge right now is probably user experience. Nostr is still pretty early, and it can be a bit technical to set up and use.
Yeah, I was gonna say, all this talk about relays and cryptography, it sounds intimidating.
It can be, but it's getting easier all the time. And there are a lot of developers working on making it more user-friendly. Another challenge is moderation. If anyone can post anything, how do you deal with spam and illegal content?
Oh, right. That's a huge issue on regular social media, never mind something totally decentralized.
Exactly. The answer isn't simple. Nostr relies on users to filter content themselves by choosing which relays to use and which users to follow. It's a more community-based approach.
So it's relying on the users to self-police in a way.
Precisely. It's not perfect, but it's a different model than the top-down censorship we see on traditional platforms. And ultimately, I think Nostr represents a fundamental shift in how we think about the internet.
So it's the future of social media?
It could be. It's still early, but the potential is definitely there. So what's next for our listeners? I think, honestly, the best thing you can do is just dive in. Download a Nostr client. There are a bunch out there. Start experimenting. Get yourself a Bitcoin Lightning wallet if you haven't already. Send some sats, follow some interesting people, and just see what it's all about.
I think I'd add to that. Maybe start small, you know? Don't feel like you have to become a Nostr expert overnight. Just try sending a message, following the few people, see what the community is like. And definitely be careful with your private keys. Don't go sharing those with anyone. That's like giving someone the keys to your Bitcoin vault.
Solid advice, Lara. Start small, stay safe, and get ready for a whole new world of decentralized possibilities. And, come find us on Nostr. We'll post our pub keys in the show notes.
All right, so to recap, today we dove into some pretty wild Bitcoin breaking news, didn't we? Analyzing the market impacts.
Absolutely. And then we explored Nostr, this fascinating new decentralized social network that could really change the game.
Definitely got my gears turning. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all.
That's the beauty of it, Laura. It's a journey. And thanks to all of you for joining us on this one. We really appreciate you tuning in to the Bitcoin Street Journal Market Update.
Yeah, we really do. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps other people find the podcast.
And if you're feeling extra generous, share it with a friend who you think might be interested in Bitcoin and Nostr.
Oh, and be sure to check out the show notes for all the links and resources we mentioned today, including our Nostr public keys. Come find us at thebitcoinstreetjournal.com and say hi.
Absolutely. We are always up for a chat or a debate. Whatever sparks your interest. This has been the Bitcoin Street Journal Market Update podcast. Until next time, stack sats, stay humble, and we'll catch you on the next block.